When the days are golden, the cards all fold, and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams are veiled, and the ones we hate are the worst of all, and the blood runs steady.
2-1 for today's this week's podcast. We'll be having a chat with Trevor Cleary, a member of Too Fresh and one of our Fiji reps as well, to the World Cup and SPG, if I'm correct. Yeah,
Just World Cup.
just World Cup. Okay. Yeah, he's one of the pioneers for NTRA, and we'll just have a brief chat with him about what transpired or what inspired him and his team 11 years ago to come up with this concept here in Nandi, and especially the Nandi Touch Rugby Association. What transpired during those days, or where did they come up with the idea of forming this association from the main body in TFF? I'll hand it over to him to introduce himself, and he'll talk about the finer details.
I'm Trevor Cleary, play for Too Fresh, born and bred in Suva, from South Savo, maternal links also from South Savo. Said firstly, back then there was no TFF or thing. It was TFF, or what we call FI, Fiji Touch Association, FTA. And then because it was only in Suva and there was no expansion at the time, and it was an idea of my good friend in Sydney right now, Bill Singular. What would you know? How can we make it come to the West? Like we were trying to figure out what should we do in the West. So it was his idea, but he just didn't know how to go about it, and that's where I stood in, and then we just went back and forth from there.
So you were born and bred in Suva. How did you end up in the West, in Nandi?
Exactly. My point I just said is Bill was the one. He lived in Nandi, and he was a dear friend of mine before he came to Nandi, and he wanted to expand the game, and he always wanted people to know about touch. And then once he moved into Nandi, then he realized there's a lot of potential here, and then he contacted me, and I agreed. I said, okay, you know what? I've been playing in Suva. I've been playing in the in the highest level, also playing league there. Then I thought, why not? What do I have to lose, or what do me and Bill have to lose at the time? And from there sparked the Nandi Touch Association. But I have to say, we had the idea, but it's actually the people in the West that actually made Nandi Touch happen. Andrew Thapa and Lavenia Ma, the guys from Takimai, Suli Romasima, and Masta. They actually, they saw this sport and they liked it, and I have to say, all credit goes to these clubs. They were called the Turbos back then.
Right.
Now they're called the Elements. Takimai, our Moses team back then was just made of youth, and the whole idea, people started to enjoy the sport, and then they realized that everybody could play the sport, the children, the parents, and even the grandparents. And then the thing spread from there, where people realized that it touches for everybody. And we were just, from that moment, we just kept on sharing the love, and to one point me and Bill thought, hey, look, we've started it, now we're just gonna step down and let somebody else run it, and then from there it just always went on.
Right.
And I'm so happy that that time there was no TFF at the moment that time, and Gina was the president of Fiji Touch Association, Gina Lasanga. And as soon as we started the Nandi Touch Association, she was the first one here. She came here, she started watching our training, and every now and then she would bring her team, First Touch, down to Nandi to have a few games just with the little teams, the Wangandra team, Takimai, Namaka Moses, and a few other teams. At the moment, Saints were still here from St. Mary. Those were the few teams that we had at that time, and they would come and have friendlies with us and have competition just to spread the word of the game. And then all of a sudden we thought, hey, what about we start one franchise?
Right.
So we did a franchise competition, and I remember this team, Dawi Magics, from Rewanga. They were really keen about coming to the West, so they would play 2 weeks in Suva. On their third week they'd come here, and they'd play one of the Western teams, and it was such a blast. And they were actually champions of that franchise, and that was the first East-West
Oh, so
franchise.
just explain what's a franchise, by the way.
Franchise is when you combine teams. And you
Like a
want-
province, like this
Yes,
provincial
and
teams.
basically all you want is the cream, eh?
Cream. Oh, okay.
Okay, so in terms of if you're speaking about development, you always have to allow the players on the top, the cream players, to play against each other, to sharpen their skills at that level. And everyone that's below that level needs to compete also to get to that level, you know. And then it becomes like a steps really, where you have to make sure you hit that level, and then they will nominate you for the next one, eh? And that was basically the first one that we had. We had a few East versus West straight after that, which I was happy to say that Nandi almost by 1 point
Right.
beat Suva, and Suva was littered with a lot of Fiji reps, really good players and stuff. But we knuckled it down here in the West. That you know, you come to our turf,
Right.
it's not gonna be easy.
True.
So yeah.
What were some challenges you faced while trying to put up the association?
Yeah, so skepticism was one.
Right. What do you mean by
People
skepticism?
weren't really sure, like
Right.
these guys coming, they're conning
Right.
us or something, you know.
Right.
They were trying to find out where is the funds coming from, not knowing that me and Bill would have bread and tea for a month,
Right.
just so that we can fund the association back then, eh?
I think I can feel you right now.
Yeah. So basically, that was
Right.
when you run an association. Sometimes
Right.
it takes a little bit more sacrifice
Right.
than what you expect, and
Right.
we sacrificed a lot in that area. Financially, we were just worn out, but we believed in the dream, yeah.
Right.
And now just watching it now,
Right.
and you know, like, okay, money well spent. We got some nice young talent. They made the Fiji rep. They made the Fiji team rather.
Right.
And we see the fruitfulness of it. We see families coming, enjoying the sport. We have new friendships,
Right.
like we wouldn't have met
Right.
if it wasn't for Touch.
True.
And I've met some great people along the way.
Right.
I just want to mention Kali.
Right.
Yeah, he was awesome. And his young Wangandra team back then, eh? They
Right.
were like, boy.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you had to put X Factor, that was the X Factor team here in the West.
Right.
They could just in a blink of an eye and they're gone in the score.
Right.
But that was the beauty about back then,
Right.
because it was so raw. And I'll just mention Coach Jack
Right.
Sunday. He had this belief that the talent that they can tap in
Right.
for the Fiji team would be in the West.
Right.
So during our Saturday competitions, while we running our competitions, Coach Jack would come right from Suva just to come and watch us.
Right.
And he did that for a few weeks before he picked his squad for 2015 and 2019. Right, and which goes to show the numbers that we had from the West that actually played in those World Cup teams, in the men's open, mix, and also in the women's. So if you look at that, the late Coach Jack, he actually was the one that kept telling me, hey,
Right.
continue developing the kids,
Right.
continue with the sport. You have some good athletes there, and he was always encouraging us.
Right.
Over in the ground, and when we go back, we have a bowl of kava, and we're just talking about, and I'm just picking his brain because he's a man full of knowledge.
Right.
And it's like, hey, how if I were to improve something, how would I do it? And he would never shy away from, trying to help us. And I think that was one of the driving forces between, me, Bill, and then by that time, Luke had stepped in,
Right.
and the friendship grew from there. And Coach Jack was like he was like our consultant.
Right.
So we stuck somewhere. We just call, hey coach, how would I go about this? And he
Right.
would give us advice. Sometimes we have to call Gina Lasanga from Suva, now the Nasinu president.
Right.
And because they're so business minded, they actually find a way for us to not just come and play, but come, play, enjoy. And if there was an opportunity, we would grasp it.
Right.
So these people were the people that we use as our think tanks back then. So it's very important that if you start an association, you have your people you consult with,
Right.
your think tanks, but make sure stick to the goal and what you want to achieve.
Right.
Especially when starting an association. Do you just want to have it like a normal rugby competition,
Right.
or do you want the families to actually come and enjoy the sport?
Right.
I think the year that it really broke out is when we swapped our presidency, and before COVID, and we had Charlie Tomasi, we had Rene and Ravu.
Right.
When they came in, man, the organization skills that they had, Nandi Touch had not seen anything like that before.
Right.
And they just exploded. They forced basically forced Fiji Touch's hand to like, okay, we need to make this happen, you know.
Right.
We were forcing them to do franchises, forcing them to do East versus West, because we wanted it to happen. We wanted our players to get exposed.
Right.
We wanted our players to have games, and from that moment onwards, it's always been up,
Right.
you know. Even our competitions happening now with another new transition of leadership. You know, we still see the same thing. We still see the different innovative more measures or things that we're doing to make the game different from the rest. Like this interview for one, this would be the first.
Right.
You know, we've only had just promos, but really doing a podcast like this, it's never happened before. And so this is a one of a kind and the first time thing to happen. So, you know, and Touch is all about finding out new things and doing new things.
Right.
So basically, that's just a rough history
Right.
of
NTRA.
Nandi Touch Rugby Association. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of quarrels,
Right.
a lot of skepticism. There was, and you know, and people had to believe in the
Right.
dream,
Right.
and we just had to convince them that, like, hey, if you decide to come with us, this is where we're gonna take
Right.
you, you know. And I think that's where they were like, okay, let's give it a shot. And I just want to applaud the Nandi and Lotoka teams. I know they believed in it, and they're the ones that actually run. They don't know that they run the association.
Right.
You know, we're just administrators, really. You know, and we only just administer that they play. If it's not for them, then why do it?
Right.
So that was basically the mindset that we carry when we're running an association. We want to make sure that the teams know that they are the ones running the association. We're
Right.
just administering their games for them, and you know, all that kind of stuff, getting the books right,
Right.
and stuff like that.
Oh, and where do you see Nandi Touch in the next 5 years' time?
Okay, so in the next 5 years' time, where do I see Nandi Touch?
That'll be 2029. That's the next World Cup.
Okay. Okay, so judging from what we have now and where we can take it, the idea is it'll be like a festival every Saturday.
Right.
You know, where friends and family come to enjoy each other's company. And I see it expanding to something like the Australian competition or the Kiwi competition that you
Right.
watch, where everybody comes and there's multiple grounds running at the same time, you know. I see it expanding. Right now we're using 2 grounds,
Right.
but we've had competitions here where we ran 4 grounds, and we had to use the background
Right.
down near the runway, and that was interesting. Even when before the academy was built, we used 3 grounds at one competition,
Right.
just to show the interest of the sport here in the West, you know. And when we threw a touch rugby competition, even the guys from Suva were like, hey, you guys need to let us in. And you know, we always welcome teams
Right.
in one-day comps, but that's the capacity that we have. We here in the tourist town of Nandi, we have big opportunities ahead of us. The only, I think, roadblock we're facing now is how do we use it?
Right.
Who do we identify? How do we identify those opportunities? And who are the right people to, you know, go there and make use of those opportunities? Because not everyone can do the same job.
Right.
I see Nandi Touch being the best sport to play here in the West. Just watch and see.
Right.
Lotoka's already on board. Singatoka's already on board. It's going to explode in Singatoka in the next few months. We've already identified as a club. Sorry, taking off my hat as NTRA. As a club, Team Fresh, we already going into Singatoka, and we've identified that Singatoka is ready to explode. So if we could get some teams from Singatoka, some teams from Lotoka, there's no limits. It's gonna be something that touch rugby in Fiji has never seen.
Right.
You know, in terms of how big the sport is and the number of people that are playing, rather than just 2 teams playing
Right.
and a big crowd watching.
Right.
You know, we have to get everyone involved.
True.
So once everybody kinda that this sport is for everyone, the Singatoka, Nandi and Lotoka, then they'll be like, instead of me sitting on the grandstand, I could be playing in one team, you know, in a masters, in a juniors, in a men's open or something. Yeah, well, I see it like that. I see it growing and exploding in the West. Yeah.
And touch in Fiji?
Touch in Fiji.
Forecast for the next World Cup? I think it's in the next 4 years, and we're having the World Cup now in London. You have a team that's ready. What's your, in terms of development, do you think we are, on the right track to developing our team in the next 4 years' time? We can't say it for this year because it's already gone.
Okay, so just to put on my coaching hat, capacity building is a big important part that plays in terms of developing youth. Coaches need to be coached the right way. Referees and officials need to be reffing or coached the right way also. The players need to learn that this is not one touch, this is 6 touch rugby, you know. When identifying the talent, usually the most talented people are the hardest ones to look after. Who are the right people to look after the most talented that we have? Or will they go and play another sport? You know, so when thinking of the next 4 years, the best move that we could make is to have some kind of academy set up where we actually have under 16, under 18s, under 20s, then men's open, masters and onwards. So I would say our best development plan now is to make sure that our lower grades are actually stamped in the calendar and they will be lower grades, and then we feed them straight into our academy.
Right.
You know, and without having that kind of mindset, because an academy does a lot, you know. It teaches a lot, teach them a lot, it gives them something to look forward to, it opens doors for them. And I would suggest that we actually, Fiji Touch, do a few more tournaments rather than just the SPG.
Right.
And SPG and what's this? The World Cup.
Cup.
Now we already have Fiji Cup here,
Right.
you know, and it's like the pinnacle of all the Pacific teams to come and play in Fiji, the Pacific clubs rather, to play in the West, here in Nandi. Well, sorry, in Singatoka now.
Right.
But I think it's much needed that we need to set up some sort of an academy setup. We need to set up not only for the players but for the coaches and the officials, so that the sport starts to have a gradual increase in terms of quality, rather than having a big quantity and there's no quality in the touch. You know, and that's plagued Fiji for so long.
Right.
We've had such big numbers of players, but the quality of the players, you know, they're still not up to par. The last 2 SPG is a good example of how far we are from our neighbors in PNG, in Samoa.
Right.
You know, not counting Japan, that every time we play we almost starting one volcano there every time we play Japan. But that's what's needed, you know, some kind of setup like that, and maybe identify another international tournament that our youths can go and play.
Right.
And get that international experience.
Right.
So capacity building in terms of your academy setup, and also more international exposure for our young ones. So because for us it's basically done. Those who are in the men's open now, you know, they're going, but really the ones we're targeting is the one
Right.
in the under 18s,
Right.
and under 20s, and also the under 16s. So for me, I see it, that's the way Fiji Touch needs to go.
Right.
More capacity building, more set up an academy or something of the sort, and then target one international tournament besides those other 2 major ones.
Right.
So our players can actually have better exposure to the sport.
Right. Okay. Set. We'll be changing baton soon with the new administration. We're about to reach our 3rd year. Any advice to the clubs out there who would, that are in the shadows right now? Any advice to them? How would you bring? What are some things you think Nandi Touch has to offer, and what their hidden skills will help benefit Nandi Touch? Their secret administrators. Not secret administrators. There are those that are involved in the club that we really need to tap into. What's some advice that will pull them in?
So basically, I would advise for those who are just sitting in their clubs and relaxing and stuff like that. If you have a skill that you can offer us, don't be ashamed to come and put it forth for us. If you're a good administrator, that's exactly what we need. If If you think you could be a president, a vice president, a secretary, if you're working in that finance sector and you think, oh, I have nothing to offer, no, you have something to offer. We would love to have your skill and your
Expertise.
your expertise, your expertise in that area to come and help us out. And lastly, I'd just say, never forget there's people that went before you. If you need the advice, seek it. Seek the advice. Sometimes it might not be the advice you want to hear. Sometimes it might not be something you prefer. But you've asked and you've got a fair idea and you can work on from there. Nothing is perfect. All associations and all previous associations had before, and and the new one will come in and they will face a few challenges. Just remember, we're always here for consultation. You can always ask us. You can always give us a call, and we'll be waiting there. And we'll help you guys. Any way we could. Yeah. That's for the next game coming up. Don't be afraid.
When the days are golden, the cards all fold, and the saints we see are all made of gold. When your dreams are veiled, and the ones we hate are the worst of all, and the blood runs still.